All right, welcome everybody to Dare to be Vital with Allan Mishra. I am incredibly excited to introduce you to my friend who happens to also have been on the cover of Yoga Journal, Yoga International Magazine. She's been featured in a lot of yoga magazines and journals, and she's also a San Francisco Bay Area local instructor. Please welcome Giselle Mari. So good to see you.
So good to see you.
So we're talking about how to thrive and how to be vital. And I thought of you as one of the world's experts in those two categories. So can we just jump right into it? Just tell me what you think we can do, especially in these uncertain times, in terms of trying to stay vital or to thrive despite the challenges.
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, I think it's really important that we acknowledge the many people who've very unfortunately passed away from this virus and those that are fighting it currently. I think that collective consciousness around supporting those that are going through it is really important, and acknowledging what's going on around us and being grounded in that. At the same time, I think that we all have to find coping mechanisms and strategies, mental strategies on how to get through this. And something we talk about a lot in yoga is just one breath at a time, one day at a time. These are really common things that most people hear of, but it really does help. And it is really a true thing for us to start to practice in a world where we are constantly fast-paced, moving from one thing to the next, not really thinking about how we're doing it, what we're doing it, and bringing consciousness to it. So we all have been given the, for some of us, maybe luxury, for many of us, not luxury, of being at home and sheltering in place and having an opportunity for us to really reflect on what matters to us right now. And while I say this, I also want to acknowledge that not everyone has that luxury to sit and ponder
Right.
what's important to them right now when they're trying to survive and trying to figure out how they're going to eat, how they're going to pay their bills and their rent, mortgages, and whatnot. So I say this and offer this advice and insight with sensitivity around that. So I really want to bring that forth.
I think that's really important, Giselle, and I think we have been blessed with the opportunity to, as you say, ponder what we might be doing, but leaning into those people who are dramatically affected by this COVID virus, and that could be directly, they could have lost a loved one, they could have it right now, or the economic impact of people who have lost their jobs or worried about losing their jobs. We really should be thinking a lot about them.
Mm-hmm.
I have a sort of a request because you're an expert. So before we get into it a little deeper, can we just do, or can you show us how to do like 3 breaths? How would you suggest doing it? Because I know people would love to learn from somebody like you. I know I've been practicing a little bit of deep breathing.
Yeah.
But can you take us through like a 3 deep breath thing that people could try?
Yeah, I think very simply, without getting into like any of the technical types of pranayama practice, that's what it's called, pranayama in the yogic world, is a very simple breath that we can all do that actually helps with our sympathetic nervous system. And that is a part of our nervous system that is that fight, flight, or freeze state. And when we're always in this like heightened anxiety, we're in that sympathetic nervous system state. So if we can just take a deep breath in through the nose, and then exhale a ha out of the mouth, like an actual audible ha. You inhale through the nose and exhale out of the mouth. Doing that, just so simple. Just take it, sit down or even lie down, and just take a deep breath in through the nose and exhale out of the mouth is incredibly helpful to your nervous system, helping you downregulate. The breathing to me is an integral part and something everybody can do no matter their circumstances. Even if you're labored in your breathing or you've got stuff going on, you can still try and calm yourself down by slowing your breath and using some of those techniques of just inhale through the nose, exhale out of the mouth, or inhale through the nose, exhale out of the nose, slowly, measured, counting if you'd like. Inhale 2, 3, 4, exhale 2, 3, 4, or however long you can. Maybe it's 2 seconds, doesn't matter. Anything where it's going to bring you to a place of just calming down and slowing down that heart rate, I think is a really great entry point for helping us through this. It sounds so cliche as a yoga teacher to say, just breathe. But there's a lot of science behind that.
That's actually really true, Giselle. So I know for centuries, yoga maestros have recommended deep breathing, and recently in the last couple of years they've actually found a pathway from the back of your brain where your breathing center is all the way to your frontal lobe in animals that has suggested that as you deep breathe you are literally calming your frontal cortex. So for those super Western medicine people out there, the idea is really well vetted by elite data now, and I think the cost of doing this is zero, and the upside is massive.
Huge.
So I'm trying to do this at least 2 or 3 times per day, and I think the other part of it from a science perspective is if you consistently try deep breathing, you're going to be increasing your lung capacity a little bit, and that's probably one of the best things you can do to avoid perhaps getting some of this, just clearing out anything in your lungs. So both sides of this equation point towards doing it, and the cost is zero.
And it's strengthening, in many ways. It strengthens the diaphragm, it strengthens the lungs. Also for your doctor friends and anyone who's into all this stuff, there's the vagus nerve that gets stimulated when you're doing deep breathing. I think it's the 10th cranial nerve, and it's the one nerve I think that distributes mostly throughout the body and impacts most organs. So something for your doctor friends and for people that are interested in this kind of thing to really investigate the impact of deep breathing on the vagus nerve, and how the vagus nerve then in turn supports more of a parasympathetic experience or response when we do move into deep breathing, and how that's going to impact our mental state as well, and soften a lot of that anxiousness and dread and depression that people might be dealing with. So breathing is a huge strategy, and like you said, costs nothing other than time and a little bit of effort. And
are there other things that you are either doing or you're recommending to your family or your friends to remain centered or calm during this time frame?
Yeah, for people that are interested in exercising and maybe they can't get out, exercise is huge. Whether it's practicing yoga, I'm certainly offering online classes, and a lot of teachers are offering online classes for free or for a small donation as they're trying to make a living. Studios are offering online classes for free, whether it's on Zoom, whether it's on another platform. So something for you to definitely look into if you want to practice yoga or meditation. Exercise, people are doing stuff online as well, whether it's Orange Theory or things like that. They're doing stuff online and usually for very low cost or for free. So I highly recommend getting your body moving, especially if you can't get outside, if your weather's bad, do something in the house. Another thing that I think is super important that I think a lot of people overlook is creating a daily habit.
That's a good one.
And it's easy for us in the beginning, right, to think, oh, let's just like hang out in our pajamas all day. We get to work from home and, have a drink while we're doing it. To get into the shower, get dressed and brush your hair and maybe, act like you're about to go out, I think is really helpful to your mental well-being. And instead of being in the pajamas all day long, or maybe not taking a shower for a couple of days because you maybe don't have to, there's something in habit of getting ready and preparing yourself for something. And then maybe it's preparing yourself to go bake some bread. Doing cooking or even cleaning can be really therapeutic. Playing board games with your family members.
These are really good suggestions. So let's just review for a second. Number 1, practice deep breathing. Number 2, get some exercise. And there's lots of different things. There's YouTube videos. There's lots of online classes that people can look at. I suggest we prioritize exercise. And then the third thing, I really agree with that. Getting out of bed, getting a routine, making sure that you stay connected is the fourth one that I usually recommend. And so that's my question is, we need to be social distancing. There's lots of value and lots of data to suggest that that's going to help us potentially flatten the curve. But how are you staying socially connected during this time?
Doing this.
Thank you, by the way. We have to have a disclaimer here. There may be a reason why it looks like we get along very well. We've known each other for a long time, and I consider you a very, very good friend. And so I appreciate you taking the time to do this.
Yeah, no, of course. Zoom is free. You can connect with a friend. Doesn't cost anything other than obviously an internet connection, or getting on the phone. If you don't have internet, get on the phone. If you have the internet, you've got a cell phone, you can text people. Reaching out, I reach out every single day to a handful of my closest friends, and it keeps me sane. It keeps them sane. It helps us to vent. It helps us to talk about our frustrations. I have a teenager at home, and I make jokes all the time about, no parent and teenager should be spending this amount of time together. It's biologically not, it's not in the rule book, like you can't.
Oh my God, that is a really good point. So maybe I should lean into that a little bit. So tips from Giselle for living with your teenager during this time frame. Anything?
Well, I think to the extent
it doesn't involve alcohol.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I think that to the extent that you can, really honor their space.
Yeah,
they need their space, and as teenagers, they're trying to experience and push through their independent place and state. Let them be in their room. Let them be on their phone for a little bit. And every once in a while, I kind of will jostle my child and say, hey, we need to take the dogs for a walk, or you need to get outside and get some fresh air and go in our backyard. And so getting her to work out and doing those kinds of things to kind of keep the juices flowing, shoot some hoops or something. Or hey, can we pick a movie that we can all agree on and watch, and then talk about it, or play a board game or something. But I usually want to find something that I know she'll be interested in, not what I'll be interested in.
Yes.
So I think that's really important with teenagers is, make it their idea.
Yes, that's a good one. I'd like to finish with maybe a more serious question. There are a lot of people who are isolated, maybe people who don't have a significant other or a family member that they're with right now. We were discussing how it's challenging to have teenagers at home or be with your spouse 24/7, 365. What would you suggest for those people who maybe are more alone or feeling lonely right now? Any suggestions?
I think that, that's a really hard one, because, I think my suggestion would really come from a place of those of us who have more resources or have family members at home, that this is a perfect time for us to start reaching out to those that don't have family members or elderly, or finding organizations that maybe work with people that we can make phone calls to, call like an assisted living home and say, hey, can I volunteer, and maybe talk to some of the people that are at your facility who maybe don't have family members that can come and visit with them regularly, and talk to them or read a story to them over the phone or something along those lines. And for those that are, I think, alone at home, I think the best thing to do is to really to work on the inner landscape. And that's really hard for people, especially that are not used to using themselves as a resource. And yoga is a big part of that, and teaches a lot of that kind of inner dependence on oneself. And whether that's reading and writing, creating art, doing things that bring pleasure, and not focusing so much on what we don't have, but recognizing that we have lots of resources within ourselves, lots of wisdom within ourselves that we do need to tap. And this is a time for all of us, not just those that are alone and don't have family or friends, but even those of us who do, is to really start exploring what's going on within ourselves, and some of the own personal challenges that we face, and how do we kind of unwind that and untie some of those things. So those that are out there and are alone, one, I would say, if you can, reach out to an organization or to a community center, call them, find out if there's ways that you can partner up with someone or connect with someone, and reach out. I think that's a really important piece, and not always an easy one. And until you're able to reach out and ask for help and ask for support, you've got to start working inward and recognizing that being alone is never a bad thing. It's actually a good thing to date yourself, as I like to say, and to spend time with yourself and get to know yourself is a really important skill in this life.
Awesome. I think that's a great way to finish. So the suggestion is, number one, to seek out opportunities to serve people in need.
Yes.
And number two, to sort of work on your inner landscape. I like that idea of dating yourself and checking out what's going on. So thank you so much. How can people reach the famous Giselle Mari. Is it GiselleMariYoga.com? Is that the
It
best
is.
place?
That's my website. Yes, yes.
All
And I'll
right.
be teaching a free online class tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. So,
Okay. So
yeah.
GiselleMari.com. And thank you so much to my friend and world-renowned yoga instructor, Giselle Mari. Thank you so much, Giselle.
Of
Have a
course.
good,
Thanks,
stay
Allan.
safe and healthy. Peace and
Thank
love.
you. And safe and health to all of you out there. Thank you.
Awesome. Take care.